So, the basic life force behind human beings is the desire to be creative, and the brain power that it takes to be creative and at the same time to view your surroundings in innovative and unusual ways is a very rare gift. And so sometimes we think of this as, taking photographs as a kind of technological enterprise, that the better the camera, the easier the camera, anyone can take a picture. But of course, the creative force behind it and the ability to capture something in it that most of us don't see immediately is something that Manny is noted for as the only Pulitzer Prize winner on Guam for photography, on his now very famous pictures that he took for the Detroit Free Press on life in an inner city high school. And then talking about the refugees or the migrants who came from Thailand, and he did that. And he also took pictures, and he had a thing on weight, which is something that I struggled with all my life, but weight, where we're talking about obese children and the kind of struggles that they go through. To be able to connect a perspective with a series of photographs and to tell that story is a remarkable gift. Now, I'm proud to say that Manny comes from a family in Centennial, and actually the family lived right next door to me, but I was gone by the time Manny was born, actually, but I remember his father, Herman Crisostomo, and his mother, Maria. They lived right next door to us in Centennial, and little did we know that, from those very humble roots in Centennial, and if any one of you ever remember Centennial before urban renewal, it was a very confined space, and you could hear everybody because the houses were so close together. Maybe that's where Manny got his life force, because you could get up in the morning and sometimes you can hear women making titizas, sometimes you could hear people, making noises like they do in the morning sometimes. And, that's what we heard, and it was a very rich neighborhood. And, but most of all, we're just glad that Manny has taken the time to come back and reconnect with us. Many people from Guam are successful in other places, but very few have that inner drive and connection to not only be successful, but to also have the drive and desire to come back. And so I thank the Guam Humanities Council, the Guåhan Humanities Council for making this possible. And I want to assure you, and I know I've talked to Manny about this, that we want to make sure that he has the opportunity to come back as often as possible through the aegis of the University of Guam for as long as I'm here, or as long as we can make that arrangement. And so it's my great honor and my great privilege to present to you Mr. Manny Crisostomo.
Thank you, Robert. We're going to talk a little bit about connecting your creative soul. I'm a photographer, I'm a documentary photographer, but being a documentary photographer is kind of a niche thing. And I know there's a bunch of photographers out there. I see all you guys have cameras and stuff. But I want to expand not just about photography or even about, documentary photography. I want to talk about the creative soul, what's in you. So sit back, and here we go.
In August 1987, I wrote to Detroit School Superintendent Arthur Jefferson, outlining a plan to document a full school year at Southwestern High School. The letter said in part, "I like to photograph the things that make a high school tick: classrooms, students, teachers, athletics, as well as the socioeconomic factors away from the classroom that have an impact on students. With this kind of time and commitment, I hope to capture the special character of high school life. While the time seems a bit long, I hope it will enable me to understand the student life and to get me beyond the misunderstood stereotypes. With the superintendent's approval, I entered Southwestern's halls and was swept away in a sea of new faces. Many of those strangers are now friends. I have photographed the students, faculty, and staff, and listened to them. I've been in their classrooms and lunchrooms and hangout. I have cheered them on at games and cried with them at a funeral. I have played basketball with them in the gym and danced with them in the cafeteria. I saw the fashions and haircuts change with the season and time. I have seen them when they were bad and when they were good. I followed them home and seen how they live and how they partied. We talked, laughed, and argued about the city and the world. I saw a lot of them mature and come to grips with impending adulthood. Some of what I've learned speaks to the enduring tradition of high school. Homecoming, proms, sports, classroom antics, flirting, romance, parties, breaking small rules, and just being kids. But it was impossible to deny the negative side, reflecting the problems of the world outside Southwestern's dirty red brick walls. Smart kids dropping out, football players selling drugs, children having babies, teenagers feeling rejected or unloved or unwanted by their parents, youngsters victimized by violence at home and on the streets, promising lives ended by suicide and by accident. If it is said that our schools mirror our society, then these images and words should be of concern. I hope these words and pictures provide useful insight rather than harsh interpretation. This section is not an indictment of our school system, but a call to our society, to our mothers and fathers, to our civic and church leaders. It is a call to work together for this new generation. Those bright students who are driven and motivated will always shine, and we should not ignore them. But let's keep an eye on those of less, those who teeter on the edge, those whose stories have the potential to warm our hearts or to break our hearts. They are, after all, our children.
Thank you. So that's Southwestern High School. During the last last week or so, a lot of people ask me, say, what is it about your photography and why do you do things? And I always tell them I've sort of been driven by this sense of curiosity. I think in any sort of creative person out there, it all begins with your interests. What interests you? What is it that piques your curiosity? I jokingly called at the radio station that I said I'm just a chamorro from Sinahanya, right, Dr. Underwood? We're just curious about the world. And I was really fortunate that I got into the field of photography so I could use that to document the world. The Southwestern High School, speaking of curiosity, the Southwestern High School project was born out of two other projects I did in Detroit, one called The Young Outlaws, dealing with the kids in the juvenile detention centers, and then the other one called Too Young to Die. And I spent 2 years working on kids in juvenile detention, and spent a lot of time with the Detroit narcotics officers as they dealt with the crack epidemic and the violence that young kids are doing. But I kind of did this for a couple years, and I said, it's got to be more than this. The city isn't that bad. And that's when I sort of got the idea, the interest, the curiosity to go and see what Southwestern or what an inner city high school was about. This is at the emergency room after one of the, another sort of a bloody gunfight in Detroit. And that's the x-ray, and that little mark up there is the bullet that's still on the victim's head and stuff. There were a lot of visuals, a lot of young kids have died in those years that we covered this stuff. But I also went to cool places like Africa, and I also went to like war zones in Africa. This is Eritrea and Ethiopia were in the midst of a civil war that went on for about 40 years. That's a little bit of the life of the people there. I was talking to my niece Mika, who's a nurse here, and she was talking about some of the things that she's already seen in her young career and how it affected her. And she was asking me how did this affect me, and it affected me profoundly. But I felt like I still had to go out there. I still had to photograph it and to tell the story, and hopefully that there'd be some changes made with it. These are orphans. Their parents, they lost their parents during the war, and all their hairs are cut really short. So they're both young boys and young girls. I went down to Panama after the U.S. invasion, and it was a funny story. Somebody found out I was down in Panama covering the war there, and PDN called up my mom and said, "Do you know Manny's covering the war zone?" And I'm like, my mom goes, "What?" But she was all freaked out and stuff. Robert mentioned the time I spent with the Hmong refugees, there were about 16,000 Hmong that stayed in Thailand, hoping that the Laos, their homeland, would be, they would be able to go back there. But it's been under communist rule for all these years. So the United States decided to bring all of them to the United States. And these are them coming to their homes. Did a lot of news. I'm a newspaper photographer for the Sacramento Bee. And so we get to have to go out and handle these events. This woman, her daughter was killed in a traffic accident on this street, and she worked really hard to get a stoplight there for people coming back from war. So lessons I learned. The first thing I learned was curiosity, right? It all starts with curiosity. The other thing is what I call honoring your creative soul. I was talking to a good friend of mine, Ben Santos, the other night, and I said, you know, when I started at the PDN, this was back in 1976, 1977. There was no internet. There were no real museums to study photography and stuff. And I was wondering, it's like, so where did some of this stuff that I was producing come from? And we were just, we had no explanation for it. So this is some of my early work from PDN. So the person who wrote this was me back in 1979. It's kind of like you guys seen movies where people are like, call your future self and stuff and say not to do this or not to date that girl or, not to go out that night. So it's my little future self. There's a little piece in the gallery that kind of explains my start in photography about how I was an intern reporter, and for the summer of '76, and then I went to the University of Guam. I was here for 3 years, by the way, Dr. Underwood. And I was working with the student newspaper, and the following summer I wanted to go back and continue being a reporter. And the editor at the time, a new executive editor, came in and said, your writing sucks. And I'm not going to give you a job. And I said, well, what can I do? I wanted to stay in journalism. What do I do? And he said, well, you can go in the photo department and help file negatives and organize the photographer's work. So that summer I was filing negatives and doing whatever it is. I looked at magazines. My mother bought me a camera at the Navy Exchange with my tax refund. And I just started going out and taking pictures. And did that for a couple more years, and then went off to the University of Missouri. And I would come back every summer. Stuff. And it's real funny, there are a lot of the, sort of the way I've composed things, the way I've shot things that kind of, in my early years, that still sort of, still are part of the way I shoot things now. This is one of the first pictures where I just sort of like took the pictures and kind of like, their dad drowned and stuff, and I kind of had to went into my car and I kind of just sat there and, kind of took it all in, and then went back to the newspaper and went into the dark room and did the work. I found humor in taking pictures. I really enjoyed this. I just, for some reason, I I just wanted to go out and take pictures. The PDN really gave me an opportunity to go out and shoot. So honor your creative soul. As a photographer, as a filmmaker, as a musician, as a poet, as a writer, try to like say, yes, this is who I am. Part of what I want to work to hopefully get to you guys today is that, it's a commitment and it's a dedication. And if you decide and commit yourself, you'll be amazed about some of the things that are going to come your way, some of the inspirations and stuff. The other thing that I've learned in the last 40 years is being open to spirit and the universe. I was talking to, I think Victor's photography class the other day, and I was listening to a really interesting TED Talk, and the woman was talking about how the word genius really referred to a spirit, somebody outside of you. They were saying that back in ancient Rome that the spirit was in the walls of the artists and will come out and give inspiration and stuff. During the Renaissance, the word genius then kind of became the person, where the artist became the center of the universe and stuff. But I always like the concept that maybe this genius is a spirit that helps you and guides you. And this genius could be anything. If you're religious, it could be a god. If you're more in tune with the spirits of the island, it could be your duendes, or it could be your abuelos and abuela, or even your benevolent Tautomona. I always felt that there was sort of this spirit that was kind of hanging out with me and stuff, and kind of like talking to me. Not in a crazy kind of, talking at me and stuff. But I just been like very, very fortunate. Here's a bunch of pictures where I felt in the Chamorro, my genius came and helped me. Just out one day, first snowfall hits the Detroit, and I'm going around and looking for some picture, and I see this from a statue. End up running in the front page. Just driving around, finding some really neat, interesting pictures. Just serendipity, kismet, just things that just really happened. I was at the Republican National Convention, and some of the days I'm up on the platform, and then I decided to be out on the convention floor, and that's when President Reagan and Nancy Reagan were there. Spirit, the universe. So, lessons we've learned. Starts with curiosity, right? All you creative types. Being curious, being interested in what you want to do. Honoring your creative spirit. Saying, I am a filmmaker, I am a musician, I am a poet, and I'm going to do it. That's honoring your creative spirit. Being open to spirit, to the universe, to whoever it is that inspires you, or whatever it is that says, get up and write this short haiku, or go practice those bars on your guitar. Just something that just keeps you in line, moves you forward and stuff. And the other thing that I really learned in these last 40 years is gratitude, gratitude, and gratitude. Thank the people that help you, thank the people that support you. And speaking of gratitude, this is one of my favorite quotes. This is Albert Einstein. And he just, every day, he gives thanks like 100 times to all these people. So, gratitude. One of the things that I was really happy was I got a grant to come back and do Legacy of Guam. Dr. Underwood wrote for Legacy of Guam. It's one of my most favorite things that I did. It's a book that we produced back a few years ago now, right, Robert? And I wanted to come back. I wanted to photograph my people, the Chamorro people. I wanted to document sort of a slice of life that one year that I got the sabbatical from my job and the grant to do it. I was talking to, I think it was Victor's class, and I was telling them how I wanted to push myself with this project, and I took this with a large format camera, a 4x5 camera that was in tripods, you know, those pictures of Ansel Adams and stuff, something similar like that. I got a canvas backdrop and painted it myself, and I went to where Chamorros were hanging out, where there was music fairs. Gupa Chamorro was going on at that time at EPOW. I went on location with my backdrop, my big camera, my lights, and I would process the film on site. So we had open house at my school, at my twin school, like a week before we left. And this is Sophie. Look, she's giving me a dirty look and stuff. And Sophie's in the 2nd grade, and this is her poem. And what's really cool about it is the first sentence is I am very creative, and the last one is I am very creative. And in between, there are all these things that concern her or she wants to know about. And then we went to her twin sister's classroom, Audrey. We saw what they did. And this is Audrey's thing. This is my autobiography. And Audrey wrote, when I grow up, I plan to do something I love. So this like happened like a week before this trip. And it sort of like dovetails nicely to what I want to talk about. We're all creative types, but we still have to deal with everything we have to do. And that at the core of it, I think all of us want to grow up and do something we love, right? So this is the inspiration that my daughters have given me. So I decided to print this, and there's a lot of white space, because I want you guys to commit today, now, to your creative soul. I want you guys to think of what it is that you want to do. The goal is for you to put there somewhere something that your creative soul thrives, wants, and stuff, and make a commitment to yourself by writing it. A couple other things you're going to write on that, and we're going to do this tonight, or most of it, is anywhere down sort of in the bottom area and stuff, you need to write, I am not going to bitch, complain, or whine, okay? I want to be a great filmmaker. And then you're going to write, somewhere down there, I am not going to whine, okay? Good. So that's the other thing. And then the other thing, somewhere around there, I want you to think about gratitude. I want you to think about who has sort of helped you or will help you in your life. You know, for me, if spirit and my curiosity gets me to a situation where there's a picture I'm really, really happy with, I'm just grateful. I'm just happy in that sense. So a lot of it, Matt, is curiosity. What gets you, what gets you? Because if you're really excited and you really want to know something about something, you're going to put all your effort and heart and soul into it and stuff. And then honor your craft. And it may get hard, but keep at it and stuff.
Thank you.